Peterson, Justice of the Peace for McLennan County, Precinct 1. And we're here this morning on an eviction suit. And now cause number J12V24-0968. The plaintiff in this suit is Gary Martin, independent executive for estate of Richard Wayne Martin. And we have Mr. Gary Martin with us, and we have attorney Mr. Perriman. Your first name, Mr. Perriman?
Bruce.
Bruce, I'm sorry. It's on the record. I should have just looked. Now, and okay, the defendant in this suit is listed as Shauna Martin Brown, but you say that you are now Shauna Lloyd?
I was never Shauna Martin Brown. My legal name is Shauna Lloyd. My maiden name is Martin. I am married to a man with a but I never got anything changed. I just have a marriage license with that name on it.
Okay. But okay, that was your name or at one time?
I never got it legally changed, no, sir. So it's not Brown, no, sir.
Okay, well, I'll let Mr. Perriman explain all that to us then. Okay. All right. You have both waived your right to a jury trial by not requesting one, which brings us to a bench trial or trial by judge. That's what we're doing here today. And while the plaintiff, Mr. Martin, is represented by an attorney, Ms. Lloyd, you are not. However, this is the People's Court, and in the People's Court, you're not required to have an attorney. In this court, you can have your voice heard and have judgment rendered following proper procedure. So, to my understanding, you wish to represent yourself, Ms. Lloyd?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, then. First order of business is to swear in any witnesses. Anyone going to give testimony today in this hearing, I'm going to ask you at this time to raise your right hand and so that I may administer the oath. Do you, both of you, solemnly swear or affirm testimony you're about to give in this cause to be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, sir.
Yes,
All right. Now, Ms. Lloyd, for your benefit, I'll explain this procedure. This is a suit. And this civil suit, and in all civil suits, it's always the responsibility of the plaintiff to go first. And that'll be Mr. Perriman that'll be presenting for the plaintiff. It's imperative that both sides are heard. I will let you know that when Mr. Perriman is through, when he completes his presentation to the court, Ms. Lloyd, I'll give you an opportunity to ask questions at the end. I don't want you to interfere with what he's saying. If you have an objection, you can object. I will listen to your objection and then I will rule on it. Otherwise, let him speak through. And at the end, you can save your questions and you can ask him things at the end if you wish to. Once you've heard all the evidence that's presented by the plaintiff, Ms. Lloyd, I will then give you the opportunity to give your defense if there is any defense. That's entirely up to you. Not necessary, but that's when you'll be able to do it. Understand that any testimony you give to the court, then the plaintiff, Mr. Perriman, is going to have the opportunity to ask you questions as well. He can also call you as a witness if he seems led to do that. Okay.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Perriman, please proceed.
yes, sir. I'll call Mr. Gary Martin.
All right, proceed.
Thank you. Could you give us your name for the record, sir?
Gary Martin?
Okay. And your brother was Richard Wayne Martin?
Yes.
And he has passed away, is that correct?
Yes.
And he left a will and left you, appointed you to be an independent executor for his estate.
Correct.
And you've been appointed by the court to do that.
Yes.
Now, this residence at 3712 North 25th Street in Waco is in McLennan County. Is that where your brother lived?
Yes.
Okay, and that was his residence. And who's been most recently living there?
Excuse me?
Who was the most recent person that's lived there?
Shauna.
Okay, and how is Shauna related to your brother?
That's his daughter.
Okay. And did you have a verbal lease agreement with Miss Shauna?
Before my brother passed, we discussed everything. And he said he wanted the house rented out and charged no less than $1,500 a month. But then when my sister was supposed to get the kids, passed away.
What kids we talking about?
Richard's grandkids,
Okay.
because he had custody, legal custody of the grandkids.
And who was their parents?
Eric Martin,
Okay.
his son.
And okay, go ahead and proceed.
So when my sister passed, my brother talked to Shauna, and she's gonna take the kids. So he told me, he said, well, if she's gonna live there in the house with the kids, don't charge her $1,500, just charge her $1,000 a month. So after all was passed and after he passed everything, I said, well, I'll just take the mortgage payment of $535 and the insurance payment of $298 and just have her pay that amount to me to go toward the mortgage and help with the insurance. And that was right after, that's a few months after he passed, after we got the house cleaned out. And then she made one payment on the mortgage in October of 22 of $535.02. And that's the last payment she made living in the house for over 2 years.
Okay, and you made this agreement with Miss Shauna? Ms.
We were
Lloyd?
all sitting on his bed in his bedroom.
Okay,
I object.
okay. Now,
Well, just say, what do you object to, Miss Lloyd?
I did not have a conversation with him and my father about any of that. That is not correct. That is not true.
Okay,
It did
well,
not happen.
that's not an objection, that's an assertion, but
Okay.
I'll go ahead and overrule. I want to hear all of this first and then we'll
Okay.
go from there, okay?
Okay.
And you can be formulating questions for Mr. Martin. That's you can do that in just a minute, okay?
Okay.
okay. And Mr. Martin, did Miss Lloyd agree to that?
We all sat there and said, well, okay, that's what it's gonna be. You know, I didn't tell him I wasn't gonna charge her the full $1,000.
Okay,
I did that after he passed away. I thought that with her having the kids, that'd be a little easier, you know, wasn't what he wanted, but
okay. Now, but you're the executive of the estate and you have to do what's you can to preserve the assets of the estate, correct?
yes, sir.
Now, who was the beneficiary of this house under Mr. Richard Martin's will?
Peyton Martin.
And who is Peyton Martin?
Peyton Martin is Richard's granddaughter.
And how old is Peyton?
Peyton is about 12 now, I think.
And who is her conservator?
Right now she's with Nikki Lindorfer.
And who is Nikki Lindorfer?
Nikki is Richard's stepdaughter, and her husband is Chuck Lindorfer.
Okay.
And they have custody of both minor children now.
And okay, and you say both minor children, those are
Preston and Peyton, they're both my brother's grandkids.
okay. Now, before Nikki and her husband had custody of Preston and Peyton, who were they living with?
Shauna?
Miss Lloyd?
Yeah.
And do you know anything about the circumstances of how or why or when that custody changed?
Oh, I talked to Chuck a couple of weeks ago, Lindorfer, and all I know is I was told that CPS gave custody to Ricky and Chuck. For what I don't know.
Okay. So the agreement that you made with your brother Richard was in part based upon the fact that his grandchildren would be living in that house.
Yes.
And that Peyton was actually the heir of the house.
Yes.
And when she reaches majority years, it'll be hers.
Yes.
Okay. but she's not living there now.
No.
Yeah. From what you've observed, well, let me ask you this. Have you had any discussions with Miss Lloyd about payment of this, the rent?
When I asked her about it, she said her lawyer told her she didn't have to pay anything.
Okay. And from your observation, is she residing there now?
No.
And what did you see there that on the premises that makes you think she's not living there?
She cleaned the house up.
Oh, a lot of furniture and things
Took
gone.
Refrigerator, washer, dryer, deep freeze, hospital bed, bunk beds, entertainment center. And then from outside, there's 2 electric generators, 2 welders, and a heavy-duty wheelbarrow all missing.
And no signs of anybody living there.
No, I went and changed the locks
Okay.
and went in the house, and I've got to go over and clean it up because it's just there's food setting out and stuff like that. So I got to go over and clean up.
Okay. We'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Ms. Lloyd, do you have any questions of Mr. Martin? And just let me clarify this. This is not giving your defense. He testified to the court, and your questions have to be directed at his testimony to the court. Anything else, you can bring up other things when it's your time for the defense. But right now, basically what he told the court.
I guess I'll pass. I
Okay.
just state what I need to state because there was a lot of untruth in it. So.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Perryman?
Well, I'll let Miss Lloyd give her testimony and then reserve my cross-exam until after she testifies.
All right. So be it. Okay, Miss Lloyd, and now's your opportunity to give your defense.
Okay. Never had a discussion. Never sat down and talked to him and my dad together. None of that. None of that ever happened. Ever. He told me what dad said. I talked to several people after the will was probated because we were hidden from the will. We couldn't see the will. The will was probated. Once it finally got probated, that's when I was actually able to see the will and see what it stated. My dad passed away in April of 22, I believe it was. And me and the 2 children, the children, I had custody of the children. And the children wanted to live in their house. So my dad was a hoarder. I did submit pictures of the house and some of the condition it was in when we moved in. Well, I'm sorry, we couldn't even move in. It took us a couple of months to be able to get into the house because of the condition of the house. I had to rent a dumpster and completely tear up carpets in the den area. That's the pretty worst pictures I have is just filled with junk. The ceiling in that room had a hole in it to where animals were coming in, which were raccoons, rats, possums, everything. So that room had to be gutted and cleaned out. And like I said, it was me and the 2 children at the time that did all the work. My uncle came in, only took valuable stuff, didn't help clean up the house, anything. Was told I couldn't touch anything outside. I've never went in the garage to take anything. I've never taken anything. He hasn't been in the garage in over 2 years. So how is he saying I took it when I left is ridiculous. The refrigerator went out not too long after me and the kids moved in, and I rented one the whole time I lived there. And I have proof with errands if I need that. Washer and dryer, the dryer did not work. It was not working when I moved in. I had a washer and dryer, moved my washer and dryer into the property. My uncle had been by the house and saw the dryer sitting out, so he knew it was out. The refrigerator, when it went out, sat outside for several days. He came over there every week to get the mail out of the mailbox, so he knew what was sitting in the front yard, so he saw it. The hot water heater went out when I was there. I had to buy a new one because he refused to buy anything for the house. I had to call a plumber 3 times, had to call the air conditioner tech twice. I had to pay for all that. I had custody of the kids up until January, the end of January of this year. And my sister has temporary custody, and it wasn't through CPS. They know I don't have money. They know I don't have money for lawyers. I'm fighting a case with my sister now because of lies that were told in court. There was no proof, no evidence of a lot of things. And the kids were temporarily took. I get the kids visitation. I get them the 1st, the 3rd, and the 5th weekend of each month from Friday to Monday. I get them on holidays, breaks. I get them a month in the summer, so I still get the kids. I told him, I did give him money for the, what's it called? Not rent, but what's it called? I'm sorry, I went blank. The mortgage. Hello?
No, more, I'm just, I don't know what you're trying to say.
I couldn't think of the name. Anyways, I gave him money for the mortgage when I first moved in. And I told him, at that point in time, I told him not even a week later, hey, I don't feel comfortable giving you this money. It states in the will that, and I submitted that for evidence. It states in the will that the houseboat was to be sold to pay for the mortgage on the house. I didn't receive in the will. It stated I was supposed to receive help from him with the children. If needed, I never could get any help with the kids, with anything they needed. The day my dad passed, the state gave him money for the children. The state told me to tell him, hey, that $800 that was deposited in his bank account needs to go where the children go. I didn't get it. He gave me $100 to buy Preston clothes because he didn't have any. I was illegally locked out of the house. He changed the locks on December the 7th. I've been locked out of the house since then. I told him after that, I went by the house and he was there, and I told him that I was coming to get my pool and some other things. And that's when he just cussed me out and told me that he called the police on me. He's going to have me arrested. I better not step foot back on the property. He's suing me for eviction, just a whole bunch of stuff. And that's the last time I talked to him. I paid all the utilities living in the house. I paid for everything living there. There's a lot of property that's supposed to have been sold, hasn't been sold. Supposed to go in kids' trust, and that's what's supposed to help them live, and they have no trust. They have no money. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 vehicles and a boat sitting on the property on 25th Street that were supposed to be taken care of. It's all still there. It's been over 2 years and nothing's been done. I kept the house up. I redid the house. There was no bunk bed. We had to throw the bunk bed away because there's a picture that I submitted with the bunk bed in the picture with the Peyton standing in front of it. That room was completely trashed right along with all the others. Like I said, it was a hoarder house and it was in bad condition. And I believe that's all.
Okay. Ms. Perryman,
Thank
any
you.
questions for Ms. Lloyd?
Yes, you said when did you start living in the house?
Moved in the very end of September, I believe.
Which year?
2022. Dad passed in April 2022, so the very end of September, I believe.
And you now, Mr. Gary Martin just testified you paid in October of 22, $535.02, I believe.
The mortgage, yes.
Yes. And did you pay any more?
No, sir. And I told him I wasn't. And I
Okay.
told him why.
And did you pay on the insurance for the
No,
house?
sir. No, sir.
Okay, so you've lived there since October of 22 and haven't paid anything towards the mortgage or the insurance on the house.
No, I told him I get insurance in my own name, and he told me no. So if I'm the one living there and it's mine and the children's property, I told him that it makes a lot of sense for me to get insurance myself. Why would you insure? And the insurance he had, I explained to him, you have insurance for 30 guns. You have insurance for all kinds of stuff that wasn't even in the house. So why am I going to pay an insurance policy for stuff that's not even in the house that he came and took?
Well, I'm talking about insurance on the house itself.
Right. And the insurance was very high because of the insurance policy that my dad had. And it was on all the property that was not there any longer. So it made no sense for me to pay insurance on something that I didn't have in the house.
Okay.
And I was trying to protect mine and the children's property. Who was going to protect our stuff?
Okay. Well, so you've lived there and hadn't paid anything on the house since October of 2022. Is that right?
And I did not agree to. Correct.
Okay. So you think, well, if you don't agree to it, you're saying that you didn't have a rental agreement?
No, sir, we did not.
Okay. So under what justification do you have to be living in this house if you don't have a rental agreement?
Because I had custody of Peyton, and if he didn't want us to move in, he would have stopped it then. There was no issue with us moving in because I had custody of the two children, and that was Peyton and Preston's house, and that's where they wanted to live, and that's where they've lived on and off their whole life.
Okay, but they're not living there now. They're not living with you, are they?
Not full time, no. I do get them, like I said. And it was not CPS custody taken.
Well, what you described is a possession order where you have a visitation schedule with the kids, right?
We have a temporary order.
Yes.
We're still fighting for custody, yes.
And that's been January of 2024 since the children have resided with you?
January 29th.
Okay. And the house actually was willed to Peyton, was it not?
Yes, it was.
Not to yourself, correct?
No.
So you don't have any ownership?
Not to the house, no.
Okay. You only had the right to live there because Peyton lived with you, because you were the conservator of Peyton, correct?
I guess, yes.
Okay, well, I'm just asking you why you think you have a right to occupy this house.
There was no issue when we moved in. Now it's the issue. There was no issue when we moved in.
But Mr. Gary Martin is the executor of the estate, and he's charged with preserving that house for Peyton. And if you're living there and you're not paying anything to help with the mortgage, don't you think that's detrimental? Don't you think he has a right to have a tenant that pays rent that will help preserve this house for Peyton, and maybe even pay more rent than the mortgage and the insurance, so she'll be accumulating money.
Okay,
instead of having you living there for nothing.
Okay, just like he was supposed to sell all the property and nothing's been sold and it's still sitting there. So we want to talk about money being accumulated for the kids that isn't already being accumulated for the kids. Because no property has been sold, including the houseboat, which he pays $500 slot rent for it to sit in the lake when it's supposed to be sold for the mortgage of the house. When I was the one taking care of the children, feeding them, clothing them, lights, water, gas, I had no help either.
Well, but don't you think he has some obligation to Peyton to make sure that whoever's occupying the house helps pay for the rent?
Like I said, there was no issue, and it states clearly in the will. It states clearly in the will. Clearly in the will that the houseboat was to be sold to pay mortgage
Okay.
on house.
Ms. Lloyd, I'm gonna stop. I've been very lenient listening to you and everything's going on, but we're talking mainly about ownership of the house. This is an eviction suit. If you have a problem with the will, there's another court for that. It's a district court.
That's fine. I mean,
okay. But just let me finish. This suit is about ownership of the home. Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right. Anything else?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Ms. Lloyd, do you have anything else?
No, sir.
All right. Mr. Martin, I need to know, did you deliver a notice to vacate to Ms. Lloyd?
Yes, sir.
And how did you deliver that?
It's certified mail, Your Honor.
Certified? Okay. And okay. And when did you deliver it? Do you know when you did? I think it's in the petition.
I believe it was
December 6th.
November 6th, Your Honor.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see this, but this is the tracking.
Yeah. I'm looking at the petition,
yes.
Mr. Perryman.
Sir?
I'm looking at the petition that you filed with the court. It looked like it was delivered on November the 1st.
Yeah, that's when I put it in the mail.
Okay, that's all right.
It's actually delivered on November the 6th at 11:20 a.m.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else?
No, Your Honor, we'd just like to sum it up. That's all the evidence I have. But if there's no ownership interest by Miss Lloyd and no rental agreement, and she does not have custody of the child who is actually the beneficiary of the property under Mr. Richard Martin's will, I don't see that she has any claim to have any possession of the house. And she's admitted she only made one mortgage payment, and that was a little over 2 years ago.
Okay. All right. Okay. Ms. Lloyd, do you have anything else? Anything last to say?
No, just that the locks were changed and I wasn't able to go get the rest of my belongings before this court hearing.
Okay.
Locks were changed on the 9th of December.
Okay. All right. Well, listen, this is about possession of property is all this is. You brought up a lot of other stuff in regards to the will. That kind of stuff is out of the jurisdiction of this court. If there was a problem, it should have been filed with the district court that issued it. So if there's anything to be done there, that's where it had to be done. At this time, though, based on what I've heard from both sides, I'm going to find for the plaintiff for the possession of the property. This be for possession only. There's no, you talked about rent, but there's no rent that was listed. It was all word of mouth. I don't think there's anything in writing. We're not going to address that. But I am going to award the possession of the property to Mr. Martin. Okay. I'll send out the judgments. We'll go out in the mail today. You'll get them maybe tomorrow. There's a holiday in here, so it might be the end of the week. But Ms. Lloyd, I want you to understand you still retain a right to an appeal. That's the decision of this court. If you're not satisfied with that, you can appeal to a higher court. And you'll get some instructions on that if you need them. Okay.
Okay. What about the property that's still there that I was denied access to?
Well,
how long do I have to get it?
They're going to have to allow you time to get it, but I mean that's between you two removing that property. You're going to have to work that out with each other.
And if he doesn't, then what?
Well, I mean there's other civil matters that you can pursue, and I would suggest that you do that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. All right. We are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.